you get through one door and it opens up four more. Because I can reach out to Black Seven and say, hey, I've signed tracks with Kubo and with Unnamed and Unknown. I've got support from these people. Would you take a listen? Right. And immediately that small level of credibility, it provides a lot more. It's tough getting through that first door, but it's not impossible. You just need to get one or two people to sign and to support. And then from there, you just keep building the resume, keep adding to the credibility.
Today, I'm going to do a student special. One of my course members from the Artist Blueprint. I'm excited to welcome in Wait For Me. You've seen his tracks in our demo streams before. He's been building solid releases since he joined the course in 2021. He's a Charleston-based DJ producer, by the way, of Massachusetts, where he's first dove into a new disco and house music scene. His deep roots in disco, powered by, as we know from his demos, he's got great drums. We love a good drum in here, don't we? We love a good kick drum in here. So we're going to be chatting drums, we're chatting production, we're chatting about what he's been doing since he joined the course. Let's get him in here. Hey, dude.
Yo.
How are you? Thank you for getting up for us.
Yeah, no, of course. I appreciate the introduction. You had me blushing.
Thank you. How you doing? Thanks for getting up this morning for us. And we're both on the coffee, and I'm on a lunchtime coffee.
Yeah, no, it's not too bad over here. Not too early, but no, glad to do it.
So today we're going to chat everything. But before we get started, we'll do something stupid, as you know, probably from watching these streams. I know you've been in the chat. I probably don't get a meal deal over there, but we're here in the UK. We have a meal deal, and it's a lunchtime thing. It's usually like a sandwich combo, crisps. What do you call them over there? Chips combo with a drink. Do you have that sort of thing over there?
Like a lunch special, you're saying?
Yeah, like a lunch special. What is your go-to lunch special?
Oh, I don't know if it's a special because it ends up being expensive as hell, but I'm always going to my coffee spot. It's this place called Harbinger right here in downtown Charleston. And I get my espresso tonic and a slice of quiche. That's my move. So
ooh, what quiche? I don't know if it's necessarily
that special from a price standpoint, but it's special because it's delicious.
Ooh, I like a quiche. What quiche do you go for?
Well, they do. It's like they do. They're one of those places. They're like it's a vegetarian place, right? And they're also like a no waste place. So like anything they kind of have left over from the day before, they just throw into the quiche. So you never know what you're really going to get. It's like full of potatoes or other vegetables, all sorts of stuff. So every day it's different. But actually, I had one yesterday and it was pretty good. That
sounds nice. That sounds really nice. Oh, I like a good quiche.
Yep.
Quiche is definitely a summer thing, I feel like. Over here, we have it lots, and then it gets to winter and no more quiche.
Yeah, that's strange because it's kind of a winter thing over here. Like I got it yesterday and I heated it up, and it was, it's getting close to summertime, springtime here in Charleston. And I was like, man, I'm probably going to have to lay off. I don't know. It's a big slice, so I'm going to have to like lay off for the summer,
They are quite fatty, aren't they, quiches?
Yeah.
You said you warm it up. So my parents warm up quiche, but Shelley, my other half, she has it cold. Chat, are you a warm or a cold quiche type of person? Let's see if we can have a poll. Warm or cold quiche?
Warm or cold quiche.
Loz is both.
This is important stuff. We need to know
this is the killer. Right. Are you a warm or cold? You're obviously warm. I like it warm, I think. And I like it cold. You like it tepid. Bosco's warm. Government fund is cold. Tepid.
Cold quiche. What, the tepid's like not cold but not warm? That's like room temperature, isn't it?
Yeah. Cold quiche is a cool artist name. So he's also tepid. Tepid's quite a cool kind of. Yeah. Oh, there is a poll now. We can actually vote in the poll. Are you a warm or cold or both? Oh wow, everyone's going both. I'm going to vote quickly. There you go. These are the polls you need on a Wednesday afternoon. How is your quiche? Right. For those that don't know who you are, can you just introduce yourself? Tell us about yourself, and go for it.
Yeah, sure. So Wait For Me. That's my producer name, my DJ name. My actual name is Kirk. I come from Boston, Massachusetts, and now I live in Charleston, South Carolina, which is about a day's trip down the East Coast from Boston, driving. Yeah, America is massive. I think that's one thing people always say. Like people come from other countries, they're like, "Oh, they fly to Boston," and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna pop over to LA for the day." It's like a 3-day trip driving.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I live down in Charleston, South Carolina, and been producing for a pretty long time. I first got into DJing probably 10, 11, maybe 12 years ago. And then after that, started producing, started trying to make music probably like a year or two after I started DJing. And then gave it a fair shot for a few years. And kind of got nowhere with it. And then I think a lot of people do this too, took like probably a 2 or 3, maybe 4-year hiatus, just kind of quit on it. And then when I moved to Charleston, I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, I was pretty much bored because I didn't necessarily have a friend group yet. And I was kind of working on that. So I had a lot of free time. So I just jumped back into it. And that was, now 4 or 5 years ago. And, these past 2 years have been the first couple of years where I've started to see a lot of like DJ support, my tracks getting signed, having actual momentum, having my name out there, having it known within some sort of music scene. So yeah, I mean, that's basically the past 10, 11 years of my life.
That's cool.
In 2 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. Why wait for me?
Oh yeah. I do get this question, and it's not random. It's not totally random. So if you are a fan of the movie Blade Runner, with Harrison Ford in the 80s, yeah. So the composer on the musical score is a guy named Vangelis. Yeah. And it's like, he just did this incredible synth work. And when I first started making music, I'm still into that sort of stuff. I love synth. I love like synth wave and just like old school analog, that type of feel. And so that score, first of all, that movie, I love that movie. It's like one of my favorite movies. And then second of all, the score, I love the score. There's a track on the score called Wait For Me. And it's like my favorite track on that whole score. So I just, there was like one day I was trying to come up with some sort of name, and I'd been listening to that score like probably like during work or something like that for the last couple of weeks. And I said, you know what, like I really like this track. Why don't I just use this? Because it is some point of inspiration. And so it's a little bit of a weird name. It's kind of out there, or it's kind of like a little bit, I don't think it rolls off the tongue that great, but I don't know. It comes from a point of inspiration, and I'm already too far in anyway. So it's like, I know I can always switch it up, but I'm happy with it for now.
That's cool. Yeah. That's cool. Did Loz just actually say, what's Blade Runner? Loz knows no films. He's never seen a film in his life.
Well,
I don't know whether he's joking or not.
This about Blade Runner. It's a great movie, but for a lot of people, it's boring as fuck. Like, it's a slow drag. It's like, you gotta watch it a couple times to kind of really like get into it and appreciate it. But it is, for me, it's not boring, and yeah.
That's cool. I like it. Yeah. I think he was jesting. Then, because you sent us a playlist of like inspirational music. I was going to ask you what you were into when you were growing up, and there's some great tracks in here. And like the Oliver track, I love that track. What were you listening to when you were growing up?
Well, so everything stems from disco. So just like as a kid growing up, my dad was a huge disco guy, so there's just constantly like disco records on at the house. And what I had always liked disco, but it was never like, I would never pop the genre on, it was just always around. Like my dad was always playing, especially on like holidays, it's like 11 o'clock at night rolls around. They've been drinking all day. It's like, all right, time to put on the disco, and they try to relive their youth, that sort of stuff.
Nice.
So I was just around it a lot. And then, I mean, for music that I would pop on myself, when I was growing up, middle school, high school, that sort of stuff. It was all sorts of stuff. I liked everything. But disco was just always something that I had heard around the house. And then the reason I started getting into music a lot more and getting into DJing was I really I discovered that new disco scene. Like it was really budding. I think, what was it, like 2009, 10, 11? Yeah. There was like tons of music blogs and just bedroom producers kind of maybe taking old disco tracks, making French house type of feel stuff, or creating stuff completely organically on their own and, starting from scratch on that sort of stuff. So I came into that scene and just started discovering music. And I just remember being super impressed because I was like, whoa, all these like really cool sounding like modern disco tracks are being made by, some guy or some gal, like just with their computer at their house. And so I just thought it was really interesting. And that's kind of what, really, really started the whole segue into everything. Especially, I don't know if you remember a blog called Gotta Dance Dirty from way back in the day. You remember them?
Yeah.
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 Like that.
I'm massively into that sound. Like, I was DJing a lot of that sound at that time. I think that's when I played Space in Ibiza, and I played that sound in Ibiza. So yeah, I was into that sound loads. There was loads of blogs around then as well. Like, what was that guy that other blog that the guy used to work for us as well? He did another blog called something Sebastian or something.
Sebastian Tellier?
No, there was a blog called. It was I might have to Google it later. I'll find it later and I'll tell you. But yeah, there's a blog, and he was writing for us, but he was also doing his own blog. And he was solid.
There's so much, and it was just so interesting. I don't remember how exactly I stumbled upon it, but I just did, and it just like opened up this massive world of music that I didn't even know was being made. And it was just it was just really cool to me. It was just and that started I mean, I don't make that sort of stuff at the moment, but yeah, that's what kind of set off the inspiration.
Yeah, I think it was the Mighty Mouse Disco Circus CD. I listened to that loads, and that was the kind of my in to that sound. And then I ended up DJing loads with Mighty Mouse. We were playing loads of that music together. It was really cool. But yeah, at the same time, that was mad. The music then was great. Airplane, I was friends with Airplane loads.
Plastic Plates, Moon Boots, who's still around. Everything, French Express. Yeah, just so Jonas Rothman, like just so much good music. The best part about it too was everything was free. It was all free download. It was every single artist was there to like, I need to build my audience. So everything was just like, take it, free. And I think distribution was a totally different game back then too. So I imagine, getting onto iTunes or other streaming. Well, actually, there was no streaming platforms. Not really. I mean, SoundCloud, getting onto like major platforms like that was probably took a little bit more legwork, compared to like SoundCloud, which was like this great tool where it's like, no, just create a profile. If you want to upload more than this amount of music, pay us this a month, and you could get that sound out there. But I do remember, and I still have them all in my iTunes. Gotta Dance Dirty used to do these compilations. It was called Waves and Raves. And I have I think they did like 15 of them, and every single one of those tracks, I still like listen to them to this day. Just such good music.
Waves and Raves. That's a great name.
Yeah. And I think they're down now. I think they shut down a few years ago, which is sad, but still got all that music left over from back in that day.
That's very cool. Very cool. And then when did you start producing music?
Yeah, I think probably around like 2013, 2014 was when I first started. Gave it a chance, made a bunch of shitty tracks, quit. I mean, I think I still have some from way back then, and was able to pump out a few listenable things. But I think I just I was like starting my career. I graduated from college, didn't have a lot of free time, so I kind of gave up on it for a few years. And then, like I said, when I moved back down to Charleston, had a little bit more free time on my hands. And what ended up happening was there was this track. I can't remember the name of who it was who produced it, but the track was called Golden Girls. It's got these really cool vocals in them. And what happened was they released like the acapella for this track, and I had really liked it. And so I was like, hey, you know what? I want to do like a remix. And so what happened was I just got back into producing again, just because like I found inspiration in an acapella, and I did a remix on it. It turned out really good. It was like a different style compared to what I made. So that was like 4 or 5 years ago. And it just sparked me to kind of get back into it and start making music, and eventually brought me to minimal percussive tech, which was something I didn't listen to 5 years ago, but now I make,
Yeah. What was you making then? Were you making new disco? Were you making house? What was that?
Yeah, it was house, a little bit of like, there's always going to be like disco flavors that I try to bring in. And there's tons of music I do not release. There's tons of like new disco tracks that I make. When I get tired of just doing percussion and bass lines, I'm like, I want synth work. I want this, want that. So, and that's also too, like for good or for worse, like stuff that blends into the music that I make. Like, because I like synthwave and like new disco and kind of like 80s disco or electro type of feel stuff, that kind of vibe can sometimes creep into my tracks. And so for like one example, a label I just signed a 3-track EP with that's coming out in the fall. And we talked about this, Graham. The two guys, Tommy and Kesh, who run the label Nazo, I'd sent them like countless demos, and that sound, their Nazo sound, it goes for like a really like, kind of like happy, like just kind of bouncy, like groovy bassline sound. And what they kept saying to me was like, hey, your tracks are good, but they kind of have like this dark vibe to them. Like they're a little bit like deeper, that sort of thing. And so what happened was I was like, oh, like, why do I keep making tracks like this? And eventually, like just talking to them, and I also sent them some music of like the other stuff that I make. They're like, that's what's happening. Like you have that synthwave sort of electro inspiration creeping into these tracks, right? Eventually things worked out, right? And we signed a couple tracks, and I guess I kind of hit the mark on like happy and groovy, that sort of stuff. But yeah, like that stuff, even though I make like minimal tech percussion, that sort of stuff, you'll notice like in my tracks, I love like kind of corny disco sounds, like synth hits and like all that sort of stuff. Like anything I can do to kind of bring in like a little bit of a disco sound to that.
Nice. That's cool. And then did you do production courses, or did you just learn YouTube kind of or just fanning around with it?
Yeah, I mean, mainly YouTube. And then I did this like 1-day course with this group. They were called Maven. It was in Boston. It was in person. It was just like a brief thing, just kind of like going over Ableton. But the main reason I did it was just to kind of get connected and get within the network there up in Boston, which it did help me do. And I still stay in touch with a lot of those people that I initially met. And that was like 8 years ago, long time ago. But yeah, and everything was pretty much, just YouTube. And back then too, it was pretty easy to just, you stick to like 4 or 5 people on YouTube. Now there's just like so much, which is good. There's a lot of people out there still pumping out awesome content. And then there's a lot of people out there just kind of like re-rinsing the same old content over and over again. And also too, sometimes like I go into certain videos and I'm like, what is this? Like, what advice is this? This is wild. Like, so it's good because there's a lot out there, but it's a little dangerous because there's a lot of crap out there too.
Yeah, I agree.
I won't get specific because I don't want to,
No, of course not.
That's feelings cool. Or anything like that. Yeah.
Should we play a track? Well, let's play a track.
Sure.
Shall we play? Let's play one from the Inspirations. Where do you want to? Should we play one of these disco tracks?
Yeah, I mean the first one in there is what's it? The Establishment, Love Like This. Yeah, that track was that like I think that was on French Express. That's from like 10 or 11 years ago. That's where I really started. And like this track till this day, I'll still put this in DJ sets. And every single time I play it too, everybody comes running up and they're like, what is this track? Like It's still like one of the better pieces of like music that came out of that whole scene, and still something I'm very much attached to. Yeah, go ahead, let it rip.
Let's play this. There we go. That was super cool. I've not heard that track before.
Yeah, I was seeing Skeleton Keys. He says like Pajana, but Bombay Bicycle Club. That's like he nailed it.
Like Pajana. Yeah. Yeah, definitely summer banger. I think I'm going to download that. I've got some summer disco sets that's coming up, so I'm going to download that. That's cool.
Oh man, hopefully I don't know who we obviously know the establishment. I don't know their story. I don't know if they even still make music, but hopefully, yeah, they'll see their 11-year-old track get some resurgence this summer.
Yeah, I think so. This is cool.
It's totally timeless. And yeah, every time you play it, people love it. And you'll just get every DJ come up with, what is this track? Oh my God, so good.
And then you shifted to playing kind of more tech house and groovy. And the first track I started working with you was, I think The Way It Used to Be was the Hot City EP. I think that's the first one you were working on when we first met.
I did an EP with them, a small label out of LA.
Is that when you changed the sound, or had you done stuff before that in the kind of sound you're kind of moved into now? Because I think you've evolved that sound.
Yeah, I think the first time I really kind of did a tech house release was with a small label out of Charlotte, North Carolina, which is about 4 hours north of here. With my friend Tyler. He runs a label called Groovy Bone, and his producer name is Discal. He's decently big in the like bass house and kind of like that heavier tech house type of sound. And so he runs his own label. And yeah, I released a track. It was called Camera Shy. It was like my first. It was actually my first official release. Nice. And that. The funny story about that too is like that came from a tech house sound because I was starting to get into tech house and I was working on like getting better at that sound. And what I literally did, I was at like a company conference for the old company I used to work for. And it had been like a long day and like I had like more things to go to or something like that, like more round table discussion. I don't know, a bunch of boring business stuff. So anyways, I didn't want to go to it. Right. And I had my laptop with me and I said, you know what, I'm just going to like sit here and like work on a track. And what I've been doing at the time to kind of get that sound down, and this is something I still do to this day, is like I was copying a track, right? Just taking the track and copying it to my best of my ability. And so I actually ended up sitting there for like 6 hours and finishing the track. It was just like one of those moments where you like everything just worked, everything fit, all that sort of stuff. So I finished the track and then somehow I connected with Tyler. I think it was through DJing or something like that. And I sent him it and he was like, this is really good. Like, let me release it. And me, just like young producer, I was like, hell yeah, man. Like if I don't care what the label size is, if somebody says this is good enough, then let's release it. So yeah, that first track was, it's called Camera Shy. It's on Groovy Bone. And that's what kind of kicked everything off, was doing that. And I was like, okay, so if somebody can accept this genre of music and they like this quality, let me stick with it and keep going. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. And then we had that. I was going to play then you joined me in the January 2021. Do you remember the motivation for joining us on the course?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest motivation, honestly, I'll just be frank about it, was like, I've been using data transmission, like your SoundCloud pages, and been engaging and taking in music from you all for years. Like just ever since. When did you guys start? When did like data transmission officially start?
2008. We were 15 in February.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. So like I can imagine when I got into Gotta Dance Dirty, and those are like I was stumbling upon stuff coming from data transmission, right? And so just for like so long, I just used and gotten so much great music and so much great content from you all. I was like, whoa, like an opportunity to talk to the guy and, kind of communicate with the guy who runs this channel that I have a huge amount of respect for. That was like my initial motivation. And then I was like, okay, but also I'll get all these like great pointers and tips out of it. So like, yeah, I think the main thing too, like that was the main reason why I was initially interested. Right. And then out of it too, really kind of gaining some perspective on how to better send demos, how to basically put your best foot forward after you've spent all this time making the song. Right. Now it's like getting it in front of eyeballs and ears and that sort of stuff. So yeah. And then everything that comes with it too, all the different strategies and social media and stuff. But yeah, the main thing was just like, I'd always just, you guys had given me so much over a lifetime of like listening to music. I was like, let me get in here and actually meet these people. I think that would be really cool.
That's cool. Oh, I didn't realize that. That's cool. Oh, that's cool, dude.
There's tons of stuff that I got from the course, but my main goal or my main driver was just like, hey, can I meet with these data transmission people once a week for, a couple of months here? That was the coolest part to me.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize that. And then after the course, did you release the Hoochin EP? Should we play that one?
Yeah, I think that was right after the course. That was with a label up on the West Coast, Seattle, Late Night Munchies, who Tony H, who runs that label, he just actually got booked for the Heineken stage over at Coachella. So
amazing.
I'm going to be with him in a couple, actually next week, I think. Yeah, next weekend's Coachella.
Wow.
I sent him some promos, and I'm hoping to see hear one or two of my tracks at his set, which would be just otherworldly to hear one of my songs being played at Coachella. That's the goal, is to hear at least one of my tracks at Coachella this year.
Oh, that'd be good. Get a video. Don't get too hammered. Get the video.
No,
get the videos. Get the videos.
October too.
What?
So, yeah. I shut it down. I'm 33. I'm at least taking a
Very
year off.
Very wise.
Yeah, that's an aside, but yeah, I shut it down and back in October. Not necessarily because I had any problems. I was just getting tired of, man. It's just the hangovers get really.
Yeah, they do. They just get annoying.
It was like I would have like a couple drinks, nothing crazy, and I'm waking up the next day and I'm like, I feel like I can barely breathe. I'm like,
Yeah, I do know. Yeah, I know very well.
Laws goes, does G know? And I'm like, like, come on.
Yeah,
like,
I'm old. Yeah, I'm old. I'm old and hangovers hurt.
No, I'm not saying you're necessarily old, but you're old enough to know they hit as soon as you pass that 30, it's like, man, they just double in effort, hangovers for some reason.
Yeah, wait till you pass 40. They get even worse.
I'm off this class for now.
They take forever. Yeah, they definitely get the content then. There's no excuses. Right. Let's play the first track. I'm going to play Got You off this EP because I really like it. Let's do this. Then we'll talk about this track. There we go. That was cool. I'm going to just stop that. There we go. Let's hope we can get that little rave one. Enjoy that. That was sick.
Yeah, it's funny though, because that was probably made that like 2 years ago, and I'm like listening to it. It's like there's so much shit I would change. I can just never satisfied, that sort of thing.
One thing that stands out in your records is drums. As we know here, we love drums on this channel. I thought we'd chat about drums loads. How you go about creating them. Let's talk drums.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you the reason my drums are like, I want this to come across in the right way, because I don't want to be like all bragging and that sort of stuff. But the only thing I know I have down for sure in my tracks is drums, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the only thing. Like melodies, I suck. Bass lines, I got to work at. Vocals, I'm always using samples, or I can't find anything original. Like everything else in production for me is challenging as can be, but drums I can do without thinking. And that I owe a lot of that though to Iglesias, Joe. Yeah. So when the pandemic hit too, and I was making I was getting back and producing that sort of stuff, I can't remember how I stumbled on Iglesias. And I mean, his drums are incredible, absolutely incredible in all of his tracks. And so I really started diving deep into that kind of minimal tech scene, heavy percussion, because of him, because of some other producers. And so during the pandemic, there was nothing to do. He was offering up classes. I was able to meet with him a couple times, and Joe's awesome, really nice dude, super knowledgeable, a great teacher, really helpful, all that sort of stuff. So I was able to kind of learn a lot of his techniques. And he's an actual, he grew up being a drummer. So that's why his drums are so freaking awesome.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I asked him, I remember when we first sat down and we were going over stuff. I was like, how do you do it? I was like, how do you know? So yeah, he comes from that background of actually being able to drum, and he works in what they call rudiments, which are basically like little sequences of drum beats. I don't know exactly how to explain it because I'm not a drummer, right? But he kind of showed me how he works, and I just took a lot of that, and now I bring it into my own stuff. But yeah, percussion is just I just take anything I can get from the sample packs that I have. Yeah, I do a ton of layering. Right. I try to squeeze in as much drum information and as much sounds and percussion as possible, probably to a fault where it makes mixing down pretty difficult, or sometimes I do too much and I have to subtract. But my philosophy with drums, and that's where I always start my tracks. I don't start with a kick. I don't start with a bass line. I start with drums, and then I fit everything around my drums. But yeah, it's usually I like to start with at least some sort of inspiration kicking off point. So maybe some sort of top loop or a piece of a top loop, and then from there I just layer in as much as possible. And my drum group in my Ableton projects, unfortunately, usually ends up being 25, 30, 40 tracks.
No way. Fuck.
Yeah, just little things that's just I love. And it's, a lot of people say when you're producing too, they're like, oh, don't do too much. Don't overcomplicate it. And I'm like, fuck that. I'm going to complicate it like crazy. I'm going to put as much stuff into this as possible, because that's what I like. I just I like that sound. And, Tommy and Kesh, who I follow a lot, they do a lot of that. That was one thing too. They're big believers in just cram as much as you can into there. Right. It's don't be afraid to push in as much as possible. You'll know when you do too much too, because you'll listen to the track and be like, I don't know what to focus on in here. But you can add a lot, especially with the way music is made on Ableton. You can specifically place things anywhere when it's not live recorded. So, but yeah, that's my drum philosophy, is just add as much as you can. Yeah.
Okay, I've got a load of questions from a certain individual in the house who also is into drums.
Yeah. Yeah.
So another producer that sat in the house has basically filled me with a load of questions. So we're going to go through these. These are Loz's top 5 questions for asking about drums.
Let's go.
Right. Do you chop up loops and samples or use MIDI?
Chop up. Yeah. I can't. I need to see it. I need to see the waveform, right? And I need to edit it. I used to try to make everything in MIDI, and I can't. It just doesn't work for me. So yeah, it's probably slower, but 90% of my tracks, when I make a whole track, are going to be in audio. And that's not to say I don't use MIDI. If I use MIDI, I usually, I write the MIDI, maybe a melody or whatever it is, and then I bounce it to audio. I just need things in audio. It's how my brain works.
Lars says he finds he gets more control through having separate channels.
Yeah. Everything is separated as possible. Again, I usually start from a kicking off point, some sort of loop, some sort of top loop or percussion loop, whatever it is. And so maybe that top loop or percussion loop, it might have a hat and a kick in it. So from that standpoint, it's not separated. But ultimately, moving off from that, I'm going to have hats and claps and percussion, everything kind of in different channels. So that way I just get a ton of control over the mix down. Yeah.
What processing do you put on your drum bus? Told you, he's gone in deep.
A lot. A shit ton. Yeah. I don't know if I can remember off the top of my head because I basically have, I'll try and remember as much as I can, but I have processing racks. And this is another technique that comes from Iglesias as well, was he taught me really how to take my whole drum group and just bring it to life, right? The way he always described it too was, when you do your processing, at the end of it, it should feel like the drums are like right in your face. Like it, like almost like, yeah, it like brings the drums forward. It brings like everything forward and in your face, that sort of stuff, without creating a bunch of loudness, right? So the philosophy is usually for processing, number one, you send it through some sort of like warming amp or like a preamp, right? Some sort of like emulation. So for that, I use this thing called the 1973. I can't remember the exact, it's from Arturia, but it's just a preamp. And I use a preset on it called Warm Things Up. And then I do a little bit of gain reduction. It just adds a little bit of like warmth on it, right? But that comes from Iglesias' philosophy on like, he's like, always send all your sounds through something, right? To kind of warm them up and give them like that sort of characteristic, right? But yeah, I do that. I send it through a preamp. After that, I do kind of what I call cleanup EQ, right? So rolling off any kind of like low end and super low end stuff on my drums. And then also doing like, rolling off usually at like 250 hertz on the sides, right? So that way you don't have like really kind of like bass information coming through on the side channels. It just creates a lot more room for your kick and for your bass. So yeah, like cleanup EQ. And then after that, it's going to be doing a lot of saturation. So I utilize Decapitator. I utilize, I can't remember what it's called, but it's a compression / saturation plugin from Sound Toys. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but I just do like a light amount of it. And what it does is it kind of gives like a parallel compression type of feel. But the main goal is to saturate, right? I like to saturate. And then after that, what I'll do is I'll do some compression. So the compression will be to kind of make the track, make the drums breathe a little bit more, right? Mm-hmm. And so what I mean by that is make the drums kind of pump. And so the way you do that with compression is like super slow attack, really fast release, and you're only doing about like a dB or dB and a half a gain reduction, but it makes your tracks kind of feel like they pump and they like breathe. And I got that technique. I mean, everybody uses that technique, but the way I really got it down was from, who's that duo producer? Oh my gosh. Proc and Fitch. Sorry. Yeah. They there was like something, I can't remember where I came across it, but, yeah, Proc and Fitch, they talked about getting your drums to really breathe, right? That's what can really separate the professionalism of your track, right? So I do that. And then after that, I'll do another compressor usually. And this is to kind of keep everything under control, right? So kind of like medium attack, medium release. It's just to kind of keep the signal kind of like nice and controlled. Not, not like, you don't have like transients and peaks like flying through and that sort of stuff, like super loud things happening. And then after that, I'll do some EQ through like a colored EQ. I usually use this thing called the MAG EQ. Just kind of like some boosting and some cutting in some different areas. And then after that, I'll do another cleanup EQ, because when you do all these VSTs and that sort of stuff, sometimes they add like low end and that sort of stuff. So you need to cut that out again. And then from there, I'll just kind of check my gain reduction or check my gain to make sure that the drums aren't, I didn't just lie to myself by saying like, oh, these drums sound great. But the reason that they sound great is just because they're super loud now, right? I'll check that to make sure that like I'm not having these like huge peaks in the drums. The final thing I'll do too, and I do this on all my channels, not just my percussion and my drums, is to clip it. And I just use a free VST. It's called Free Clip. And this is like a Skrillex technique. He uses a lot of like limiting and clipping on his grouping and channels to make sure that the peaks aren't coming through too loud. And what it just helps you do, you don't want to overdo it, because basically you're just going to squish the hell out of your signal, and you're not going to have any like nice transients that kind of like pop. But it's basically just like a safety net to make sure stuff isn't popping through too crazy on your transients. So that way, when you send it to master, it's really easy for the mastering engineer to basically push it really hard towards the limiter. and they won't, they can get, basically the goal is to get a really loud track, right? And so if you have a nice balanced waveform when you send it over to master, they're really going to be able to push it into that limiter without worrying about like distortion or cutting off your transients too hard. But yeah, the free clip technique, I learned that a couple of years ago, and that's been able to help me really kind of push my drums. And then if anything just spikes over way too hard, just shave it off, which is it makes things easy. It used to take a lot. Before I had that technique, it would just take forever making sure I'm not having spikes coming through too crazy. But now I just put a free clip on the end of it and shave it.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry for that. Yeah, it's a lot. And for people who don't produce, they're like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? Like, so I can imagine it'd be boring, but I love it.
No, it's super cool. Super cool.
I think it's cool. Yeah.
If anyone's got any more questions about drums, get them in the chat. We'll ask them. Let's listen to another track then. I want to play Sex Ed, which came out 3 months ago. I love this. I was listening to it this morning. I hadn't heard this, and I loved it. So let's play this. Tell me about this one.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is a free download.
Yep. Yeah, the vocals, I don't know where they came from, but I know I didn't have the rights, and I was just like, screw it. I'm just going to do free download. I didn't, that's the whole sample clearance thing. Like if I take something that I don't necessarily know is mine and really mess with it to like, you have no idea what it is, then I have kind of no quarrel with it. But this, I just literally took the vocal and like slapped it on there. So I didn't feel right just being like, hey, let me get this released, So yeah, just free download.
I love a free download. They're good to keep things moving. And
it's weird. It got a ton of activity, and it's also getting like a lot of support. So somehow it made the round. I think you reposted it too, so that probably helped a big time. But it made the rounds, and it's still making the rounds with a lot of DJs. Yeah, so I'm happy with it.
Let's play it.
Yeah, go ahead.
know you can.
Oh, it's had some pretty good repos.
Yeah, I have the multiple steps on the page. Comment, repost.
Cool.
Let go.
Yeah.
There we go. That's the drums are killing it on there.
Yeah, that one too. I got it mastered by Iglesias, and I went for the analog master, the digital / analog. So it's really bright. It's like really fuzzy sounding, which is ends up being good. I always go for that feel too. Just something that sounds like it's bad but good. Like it got sent through something to make it fuzzy and crunchy.
Nice,
yeah.
Fuzzy and crunchy.
Yeah. I mean, that's always the goal. Make it sound. I don't like stuff that sounds perfect. It just sounds too like commercial and it just doesn't give it life. I want it to sound kind of quote unquote shitty. That's the wrong word to use, but sound like it was made back when house music's producers, they were they had like a 4-track recorder or something like that, and they're sending everything through an MPC. That's the goal.
I was just saying, Loz, when we release our breakfast cereal, Shedded Wheat, we can put the tagline as fuzzy and crunchy.
Fuzzy, fuzzy and crunchy. Dude, that's a good track name. Probably have. It
is.
Yeah, fuzzy and crunchy.
You should keep that one.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I'm always looking for weird track names. I just it's hard,
Yeah.
I always just have to end up naming the track something along with the lines with like a vocal sample that's in it. And it's just like, I need weird stuff because it makes it a little bit more memorable.
Yeah, I want to talk. We can talk about the current release at the moment, and when we talk about the names in those, because those are special.
Yeah, that one was funny.
As soon as we started on the course, what have you got out of it? What have you implemented? What have you been using? What has kind of really helped you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing has been I've garnered like a ton, so much more momentum. I know you guys don't necessarily directly like help with the production aspect, but for some reason, after going through and getting that sort of stuff, and maybe it's a result from seeing a lot more activity on the music that I'm making and that I'm releasing. Perhaps that provides a lot more inspiration for me to keep going, for me to make music. So last year I finished more music than I've ever finished. This year I'm already I think last year I finished, I think between like 25 and 30 tracks. Already this year I've already finished 20. Wow. I'm just on an absolute tear. So like the momentum I've been able to get from that. And then two, I mean, the biggest thing, you can see it right on my SoundCloud too. When I started with you, I think I had like 100 followers on SoundCloud. And I know it's not like the best platform out there, but for me, it's really important to me. I like SoundCloud a lot because it's always been my kind of platform that I've used to find music and to stream music. And so I've gone from like 100 followers, I think, on that when I started with you to now I'm close to 2,100, right? So now I actually have like daily activity on that. And also like producers reaching out to me on there, sending music, downloading music, making connections, all that sort of stuff because of that. And so, yeah, I mean, there's been plenty of stuff I've gotten from Instagram. I'm still lagging behind on like other social media things, but I'm somebody who works really well on focus. And so when I started with Blueprint, I kind of basically set it my goal. I was like, I want to focus on one platform, really getting that going. And that was SoundCloud for me, again, for better or for worse, because SoundCloud's not the top platform when it comes to streaming. But I said, I just want to kind of give this my attention and my focus. And now looking at it, it's just like, yeah, I got a ton of activity from it. And now from like the different things that I've learned, I'm gaining followers through Instagram and through Spotify and through other platforms because of like the strategy on SoundCloud. It's slow moving, but it's more organic. It's more like value driven, right? I have my download gates where if somebody wants to download a track, go follow me on Spotify, follow me on SoundCloud, write a comment, that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think probably I need to get like the Instagram content game up. But again, that's just like, that's going to take another alignment of focus. Maybe after a couple months of really just doing my thing on SoundCloud, let's say maybe when I get to 2,500 followers, I can say, okay, let me go and just focus on Instagram for the next 6 months, that sort of stuff.
That's cool. So, yeah, I mean, that last track got 12,000 plays.
What's that?
That last track got 12,000 plays, which is amazing.
Yeah, no, again, it's like that stuff is just that's happening now, because I got close to 2,100 followers on there, right? Back when it was 100 or even 500, I would post a track and you'd be lucky to get like 100 or 200 plays. But now, because I have so much more activity on the page and things are happening, the music just gets pushed out to so many more people. You put a track like that out which you don't expect to get much from it activity wise. And then sometimes something just pops off, because the right person, maybe the right person finds it, they repost it and they have 50,000 followers. Right. And then all of a sudden, 20% of those 50,000 are now listening to your music. So yeah, the biggest thing, and that's what I wanted to really target, was just kind of like my SoundCloud, because that's always been my platform ever since I stumbled.
Yeah, me too. I love SoundCloud. I
love it. It's just, even though it's buggy and funky and it has its great parts, it has its not so great parts, I still love it. It's where everything makes sense.
Yeah, I was looking at that track whilst we were listening to that last track. Sex Ed, it said 324 reposts, and I was looking through the reposts, and it's all really like track people, just you can see it's real people. It's real people that have got like 100 followers, 80 followers, 50 followers.
Yeah.
And because of that massive reposts, it's just got those thousands of plays, which is what you have to do with SoundCloud, which is amazing, which shows it works.
Yeah, that's the name of the game. And yeah, I'm glad that there's actual profile pictures and, a couple blue check marks. People, it's like, okay, these aren't just, hey, nothing against Hype Edit, right? Because Hype Edit is a super powerful tool. And used properly, it's been able to get me a lot of where I am on SoundCloud. But sometimes that promote button that you can use on there, I just haven't necessarily seen. You get traction, you get plays, you get that sort of stuff. But when you look at the profiles that are coming in, I know I imagine Hype Edit isn't doing anything mischievous or whatever, right? But I think the way it gets pushed out might be just to a lot of kind of, not super active accounts or kind of just like spammy accounts, that sort of stuff. So yeah, but it is, when it is good to see when you look into that activity and be like, oh, that's a real person, versus, oh, it's just what does SoundCloud do? They just put like the name, if you don't have a profile picture, they just put like the first letter of your name and then like a color in the back. If you see a lot of those, you're like, it doesn't look like I'm getting actual real engagement from this,
Yeah, the one is also when you get loads of plays, but there isn't reposts or there isn't reposts, because the repost is really the driver of anything. Like the more reposts you get, the more reach you get. So if you've got loads of plays but no reposts, then there's definitely a gauge of like, are they real? Are they not? Are they?
Exactly.
When you've got hundreds of reposts, that's what's pushing the track, which is amazing.
Yeah, the comments have to come too, and but the thing is too, like with comments, you can set up that as a download gate, right? I can't quite remember but I think the major point I'm trying to make is if you have 50,000 plays and only 2 comments, it's pretty obvious what's going on.
Yeah, do you know? Also, people don't put the comments on when they're using Hyped It, and I always think having the comments.
Well, you have to pay for the premium.
Yeah, so. you get all the little squares along the wave, and if you when you're scrolling down at SoundCloud and you see a track and it's got all the little people's faces on the wave, especially when it says free download, you're like, all those people have commented. That means that all those people have downloaded it.
Yeah, these are tracks out there. Yeah,
and it's a visual thing.
Jump through the hoops to make it happen. And sometimes it can be like. I've downloaded hundreds of tracks, thousands off of, and sometimes they've Hyped Edit's made it a lot better. It's a lot of like one click and it's done now. But I remember back in the day when they were first still figuring things out, and sometimes people would set up like a multiple step gate.
Oh my God.
And there'd be times where like I'm on like the 4th step and I'm like, better be after this step because I'm getting freaking annoyed. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and it's like now it's a lot easier, like they make it more of a 1-2 step. But yeah, but it means like if somebody goes through that, they're jumping through the hoops. They're taking a couple minutes to get through those hoops and to get to that track. So it's like for me, that's actual engagement, and that means my track is in the iTunes or it's in the Tractor or in their record box, whatever it is.
That last track came out as I saw you did a free download, New Year's Eve free download. This is the other one off of it, which is called Bomba, which I did repost this one. This one's great as well. So I'm going to play this one as well. And then we'll get some new music.
Yeah, this one's super tech house. I probably wouldn't necessarily be making this stuff anymore, or I don't target to make this, but it's a fun track and I've played it out plenty of times. It gets awesome crowd reaction. So if it fits into a set, I'll play it,
Let's give it a little play. Let's do this. There we go. That was cool. Very cool. I'll give it a little wave on. So you've changed sound a little bit from that. That's. I really like that track. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was just it's it leans more towards tech house, which I make more of like a minimal tech. Like just some of the percussion's all always going to be very similar to what I make, but some of the synth sounds, it's a little bit of that kind of like mainstream tech house type of sound, which I'm totally fine with. It's just not necessarily stuff I always make. Also the vocal too. It's just it's that kind of Latin house. That's all I think people heard at Miami Music Week. Everybody's making it, and I'm like, I don't want to jump on the train. I probably should from a exposure standpoint, but I'm just not gonna.
It's a cool train.
Yeah, it's a good train. I don't know. I'll make, when I work with my friend Junior, he's Brazilian. If he'll get some Brazilian vocals on there, and I'll feel okay about it because he's actually I'm just Italian American, so I don't feel like I necessarily earned the right to just use Brazilian vocals. I don't know what the hell they're saying. So,
where are you finding those samples? Where do you hunt for your samples?
Everywhere. So I have too many samples. I'll just let you know that I've been collecting for years and years and years and years, and I spend too much money on them. I get caught all the time. So, sample pack on Instagram. I always try not to buy like the big ones, like if I get an advertisement on Instagram from like I think they're called like IQ sounds or something like that. They're good samples, but just like everybody uses them. So I try not to buy from stuff that like everyone is using. I try to do a lot of hunting on things like Bandcamp, just other random websites to find stuff that a lot of people aren't using. And so I definitely have some samples that are kind of like the secret sauce samples that I try not to share with anybody, which is bad. I should just share it with people. Who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. But, at least when I get this new pack, I'm like, all right, let me hold on to this for a month, so that it's gotta get out there, and people are going to use it if it's good. But yeah, I have too many samples, man. When I was working with Iglesias, he shipped me a terabyte, a hard drive.
What the fuck? Iglesias samples. Wow.
Yeah. And he was just like, dude, just take it. You'll never have to buy a sample pack again. And that was untrue because I've bought many sample packs since then. I think in my collection, I have close to 2-3 terabytes of samples. It's just, Laws, I can send it to you. It's just been years upon years of collecting, and I have a lot of producer friends, and we always do the thing of, hey, you bought this pack, I bought this one, let's trade. Or, hey, like, I'm going to buy this pack. Do you want to Venmo me for half of it? Right. And we can split it, that sort of stuff. So, you just have like a huge network like that. And I just have tons and tons and tons and tons of samples. And then also I just get stuff from like random YouTube videos. And I'm pulling up my phone because I actually want to show you just a really sample that I found on Instagram the other day that I'm going to make a track out of. Yeah, like this is really random, but my wife, she was on Instagram. She was scrolling through stories. I think it was yesterday morning or Monday morning, whatever it was. And I heard this I was lying in bed, just like waking up, like going through social media as one does when they're waking up. Right.
Yeah.
And I overheard this from way out in the kitchen. And I was like, oh, that has rhythm to it. Like I want to take that and put it into one of my tracks. So I'll just play it really quick and see if you can kind of hear the rhythm behind it. But this is sometimes where I get my samples. All right, let me play it one more time. I know you probably can't hear that.
I don't know. I'm listening to the microphone. I'm listening to my headphones, for fuck's sake.
So, it's probably not coming.
That's fun.
Listen, I'll make the track and I'll send it to you. But there's like a laughter and then it like goes into like a ha ha ha. And I was like, that could
I heard that. Yeah, that's cool.
I was like, that could work in the background of a track the whole time, and modulate it, mess with it, chop it up. So yeah, it's all I get everything from everywhere, you know. But I have a sample collection that's way too big.
Loz says he grabbed a sample from a Gusto or Just Eat advert the other day. Love it.
Yeah, there's I do also like I do background music for there's this artist in LA where he does like promo videos and he needed like royalty free music. So I just did like some hip hop beats for him, some background stuff. And there was one track that I sent him. It was like an intro to like a VHS company or something like that I just like looped over that I found like Laws like through like an old 80s commercial. So yeah, it's like
amazing.
You never know. Like I'll just stumble across something random on Instagram or YouTube and be like, oh, that has like a cadence to it, or that has like a flow to it. Let me rip it and put it into Ableton and see if I can make something out of it.
That's very cool. Right. Nick, let's move to new music.
Yeah.
You had an album. You had an EP out on Unnamed and Unknown. Tell me about this label. Yeah. Tell me about the release, Work and Desire. And there's some great track designs here.
Yeah. Unnamed and Unknown is out of Portugal. It's run by Pedro Vasconcelos. I think I'm saying his last name long. It's very long, but I think I got it. But Pedro's awesome. Really nice dude. And a very professional label too. Like the release was solid. The promo, communication, which... The only reason I say this too is if anybody's listening and they're like releasing stuff, it's just like you can get some really great labels to work with and some not so great labels to work with. Unnamed and Unknown is one of the good ones, you know? So just want to put that out there. But anyways, yeah, that their sound is very much in line with what sort of, fan base and what sort of sound I'm looking to be kind of tied in with. You know, Pedro, he's a resident with Nazo and Tommy and Cash. And he's been running that label for a few years. And then I think probably over like the last year or two, he's just gained a lot more activity. He does a lot of like parties in Portugal, that sort of stuff. But anyways, I think I might have just pinged him on Instagram, just saying, hey, can I send you some demos? And then, built up my kind of professional email, that sort of stuff, sent him over 4 and he picked 3. Yeah. And so it worked out, and the release did pretty well. I think I got up to like number 3 spot on the releases in Tech House, which was great. But yeah, it was just, it was a good release. And it was really important to me too, that release, because I had listened to Unnamed and Unknown for a couple of years and all those tracks. And, 2-3 years ago, I was listening to those tracks being like, man, like what it would mean to me to like kind of like be alongside with these people. And hey, I'm there now, so it's cool.
Is that are you finding that happening a lot more now? You're getting to those labels you wanted to get to. That's
the support's coming through. The videos where like you wake up the next day after Tommy and Cash played a show, and they're going through their stories, and you're like, oh shit, there's my track, in front of 1,000 people. Like stuff I used to really kind of dream of 2 or 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Now you're kind of seeing it come through, and it's freaky and it's really cool. It's really awesome to see that and to kind of get a little bit of that validation, that sort of stuff. But yeah, all those, one door opens, you get through one door and it opens up 4 more, because I can reach out to Black 7 and say, hey, I've signed tracks with Kubo and with Unnamed and Unknown. I've got support from these people. Would you take a listen? Right. And immediately that small level of credibility, it provides a lot more. It's tough, getting through that first door, but it's not impossible. You just need to get 1 or 2 people to sign and to support. And then from there, you just keep building the resume, keep adding to the credibility. Yeah.
Leverage the next. Exactly. I'm going to play that. I'm going to play the name is Bob. The name is Bob. This is the one we premiered on Data Transmission. I love this track name.
I don't know where I got the name. I can't remember. So
I loved. We had I think it was about a 45-minute chat about creative and social chat for this. In our group call. I enjoyed the chat. I enjoyed chatting about. Yeah. Right, let's play this first though. There we go. That was great.
Good.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, there we go. Let's go. That was great.
Yeah, I like that track. It's a fun one. I enjoyed when that one was it just came out good. It was one of those ones that just flowed, finished it over like a day or two.
And bassline's great on that as well.
What's that?
Bassline's great on that one as well. Like you've that's improved. And how are you producing your basslines now? What are you using for those? Is it VST thing or is it a sample thing?
That one I remember I did in MIDI, which I don't do a lot. I usually, for my basslines, I chop up audio samples. Mm-hmm. Usually maybe take one or two pieces from a loop and then mix it with other loops in the same key, or not even in the same key sometimes, just whatever sounds good. That one, I just remember for some reason I wrote it in MIDI. Yeah. And it just worked out. Yeah. It with production, it's kind of just all dependent on like how I'm feeling that day, Oh, today I'm going to use MIDI. Okay. Yeah. See how it works out. Or what happens a lot too is I'll hear like a bass line in a like a loop in a sample pack. I will like the notes and I will like maybe the groove of the bass line, but I don't like the tone of the bass, right? Either it's like too harsh or it's weird or something like that, or it's too acidy or whatever. And I just like, hey, I just want like the meat of it. So I'll take it and, with Ableton, you can pull away or you can pull out the MIDI notes from it. Or if that doesn't work great, you just kind of guess until you get there. So yeah, a lot of times I'll use like something from inspiration and then bring in my own bass sound to it, and then mess with it and do that sort of stuff. So
Skeleton Keys does the same.
I did that one, but I know I wrote it in MIDI.
Cool.
Yeah.
Skeleton Keys do the same. So does Loz. Yeah.
Anything works. I always work good off of points of inspiration. There's never a time where I sit down and I go, I'm going to make this type of track, and then it happens, right? It's just like I go through, I hunt through some samples, find something as a kicking off point, and then I go from there. A couple hours later, I have something.
Come out the rabbit hole. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I try not to think about it too much. I just go.
Right, let's play one more track.
Play the Phill Collins one?
You want to play the Phill Collins one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I just got the master back this morning, so
let's play it then. Tell me about this track before I play it.
I mean, I grew up listening to this track, Studio, and I think it was just a couple months ago. This summer, I'm working on a lot of like '80s edits. That's like my sound right now is like big gated snares, like really like electronic drums mixed with regular drums, organic drums, whatever. And so I think I just heard Studio the other day, like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, you know what, that could use some low end, So that's what I did. I added a ton of drums. It's just an edit, not going to be an official release because I think I would probably have to give my left leg to get that sample cleared. But yeah, anyways, it's just just an edit, something that'll be fun for DJs to put in their sets.
Nice. I love this track. I have it on my running playlist. It's I have an 80s running playlist, which is just like cliche running tracks, but this is on there. So the original's on there. So
it's unreal production too. There's like the great thing about the 80s was people were getting there was a lot of like new stuff happening with digital production and new techniques and new things, that sort of stuff. So it's a really cool era because you see a lot of stuff that you can still use today that sounds super cool.
Let's play this then. Let's go. There we go. Wow, that was sick. Let's give that a That was amazing. I love that. That's cool. Let's get this. I can't wait to get that out there.
Yeah, I got to figure out the kind of techniques to. I don't know. I feel like it could take off a little bit, like a good edit,
Get it on,
But
get on the free download, and then
it is an edit,
I don't think. I think let's get it out there and get the downloads going, and let's push it load and let's see
What do you think
happens.
about getting into but sending it out promo first?
Yeah,
100%. Some bigger names.
Yeah, 100%. I think there's get the kind of two thing moving. Like send it out again. Push the plays on SoundCloud, and then but also because you can then send that saying that it's had 12,000 to 15,000 listens in a week, and then you're sending that to big DJs as well, and going, here's your free copy, here's your copy, but without the download gate, But yeah, also promo could be a good thing as well. Yeah.
I want to see if I can hear it. I want to see if I can hear it at Coachella. I'm sending it to a few people that I know are playing there. So
good plan. Yeah, those videos will definitely help as well. Like, if you can get one video of it going off is
at one of the larger festivals on the planet. That'd be pretty good.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'd be happy. Yeah.
Okay, we're getting to the end. Right. If you could sum up working with us and the course, and would you recommend it to others?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, if you can put in the time and the investment dollars, definitely do it, because I think the biggest thing is, if you've been producer for a couple of years, you're definitely putting a tremendous amount of time and effort into making your music, right? And it's just like you spend days, months tweaking, adjusting, making songs, doing the best you can to be creative. And then for you to just take that, hand it to a label that's not really going to do anything for you and get close to zero activity via social or Spotify or whatever, it just does a total disservice to yourself. With your course, I was just, again, it wasn't every single piece I took and I was like, boom, let's go. And, I blew up on social media, but it was just a few different pieces that I was able to take and grow my fan base within a few different platforms. And I'm still growing that fan base. And now I see steady growth too. It's not like I get little spurts, nice. which used to happen where it was I would get 100 plays here or 2 follows there or whatever it is. It's every day I'm going into my platforms and I've gained this and I've gained that. It's it's just a steady slope of things going up. Right.
Wicked.
So yeah, if you want to just really learn, some strategy on how to get to that point where you're just seeing continuous increase in your exposure and in your growth, that's where you're going to be able to do it. And you can take any piece that you want, whether that's Instagram, whether that's SoundCloud, Spotify, Facebook, whatever piece you want to be able to grow in. That's one thing I was able to get from the course.
Wicked. And then what we got coming up? How's the rest of the year looking? How's 2023 looking? What have we got releases? What gigs we got? Yeah.
You tell me, man. We got releases on your label.
Yeah. Exciting.
So we got, I got a release on the 14th. So next Friday, I think that is, with SK Lab. That's a 2-track EP. I have a remix EP coming up on Learn with Doc Brown, who I met through your stream, right? And
sick.
Yeah. So I got, it's 1 track, and then somebody did a remix of the track that's coming out in May, I think. And then the ones I did with you was, what do we have? May, or I can't remember the exact.
Yeah, May. Yeah, the first new DC Weapons release. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, which you're taking a different approach now. It's going to be all on all platforms, that sort of stuff. Yeah. Are you still going to be doing free downloads on SoundCloud, or is it now? Okay, so different
full
approach.
Releases. Yeah, so we just, because with the DC Weapons, we were doing it as a free download series, and we're just changing the approach. It's going to be a full label. We're doing 4-track VAs, so every track kind of can get its own good push. One a month, so that we can spend 4 weeks pushing 4 tracks, which makes a load of sense. And you're on the first one, which is I'm excited about. We've got some great tracks on each release.
What is that? May?
Middle of May. Middle of May.
Okay. So I got that. I have fall release. I know it's already thinking about September. I have fall releases with Black 7, Nazo, I got a ton of stuff coming, but the biggest thing to know is that pretty much, and this is the first time I've ever had this, I have essentially a string of releases all the way till next fall, which is crazy to me. Like I used to work on just trying to get 2 or 3 tracks signed a year. And now it's just like, now I have to talk to labels to be like, oh no, I'm already releasing 2 tracks that month. We need to push the next month, which is, it's a good problem to have. You know, it's like you got too much coming out. So
negotiating strategy. That's wicked. I love it. We've got a strategy, which is wicked.
It's cool, man. And, you know, especially too signing with Nazo. Tommy and Kesh are really good guys, and they've provided a ton of awesome feedback to me, but it took so many demos to get those 3 tracks signed, you know? And, yeah. And also too, I have labels approaching me too for remixes now. I've done a couple of remixes, and yeah, just getting a ton of exposure. And then the last thing too is I partnered with this guy, Will, the creator, over in Costa Rica. I'm going to be doing A&R, some A&R responsibilities for a record label called Pineapple Paradise out of Costa Rica. So Keep your eye on that. We should be having a like kind of a sampler VA coming out either this month or next month. Some of my tracks, some of his tracks, some tracks from people like Chicks Love Us.
Nice.
So yeah, and he's really trying to grow the scene down in Costa Rica. So yeah, that's some new stuff that I have kind of.
Loz loves the pineapples, so he'll be pushing the tracks your way. On a label that's got pineapples in it. Oh my!
Yeah, Loz, let me know. We need to. we only have like a couple releases kind of lined up in the what do you call that? The kind of agenda, the docket there. So we need more music. Obviously, we're going to get a little bit more organized about, you know, where to send demos, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, Laws, you can always just DM me, just let me know. And we can, yeah, just keep in mind, we're figuring everything out. So, you know, we'll keep communication as good as possible, but you know, we're just starting things out, and, you know, we'll do good by you though. If you want to release anything with us, but
very cool. Very, very cool. We can do an A&R stream later in the year then.
Yeah. I'll talk to Will too. He would love that. Yeah, because I've told him too just about our relationship, and he's we'll figure that out. Let us get a string of releases out there, so we got a little bit of. I mean, it's an event. It started as an event company, and so he's got a really good following in Costa Rica, but just not any no like musical content yet on like any platforms. So yeah, we'll get a couple under the belt, and then we'll set that up.
Wicked. Right, 3:00. Thank you so much for doing this, dude. It was great to chat to you.
Thanks
for being here. And I'll see you in the group call later. But thanks a lot, dude. Thanks for doing this. Great to chat to you. Great to hear the story. Thanks everyone for being here. Yeah. It's been great fun.
Yeah, of course. This is awesome. Well, thank you.
I'll let you go to work.
Yeah. No, I got my full day. Yeah, my day's just starting. I gotta go make my sales calls. So it's all good fun. Is what it is.
Good luck. See you soon. Might see you at a group call. I'll see you later if not.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks everybody. See you later.
If you found this interview interesting, consider giving it a like and a comment. It helps with the YouTube algorithm, and let me know your biggest takeaway below. Don't forget to follow me on Twitch. I'm back on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and you can check out the schedule from the link below as well to see who's coming up in my interview series. I'll see you in the next Twitch stream or the next YouTube video. I'll see you soon. Bye.